person who reaches for their phone the moment the room goes quiet is not checking anything. They are fleeing. But from what exactly? That is the question they have stopped asking. The silence is not empty. It is occupied by a version of themselves they have not learned to sit with. The one that asks questions without answers. The one that wonders if the life they are living is the one they intended to build, or merely the one they fell into and never stopped falling. Every notification is a door slammed in that face. Every scroll is a distraction from the one conversation they owe themselves. So, when were you last alone with your own mind and did not reach for something to make it stop? Not lonely, just alone. The task completed, the room quiet, and you sat there with nothing between you and the voice that asks what you are actually doing with your time here. You are thinking this is about boredom. It is not. You are avoiding a meeting you scheduled with yourself. If you cannot remember the last time you sat in silence, you have not been avoiding boredom. You have been avoiding yourself. And the thing you are so afraid it will say is not a monster. It is a mirror, and you already know what it looks like. You thought of someone else just now, the colleague who cannot sit through lunch without a podcast, the friend who falls asleep to television noise they are not watching. That is the protection working. The mechanism does not care whose body it wears. This pattern begins early. The child who is praised for productivity learns that stillness is suspect. The child who is left alone too long learns that the mind is a room without exits. Both arrive at the same destination through different roads. One equates movement with worth. The other equates silence with abandonment. The first becomes the adult who cannot vacation without a project. The second becomes the adult who cannot be in a room alone without calling someone, anyone, to fill the space between the walls. The mechanism is identical. The presentation differs. Both are fleeing the same interior. There is an older logic underneath this. The human mind evolved for threat detection in groups. Solitude was danger. The lone animal was the dead one. But the modern human is not hunted by predators in empty rooms. The threat is internal. The mind in silence turns on itself not because it is broken, but because it has been given a task it was never designed for. It must now evaluate meaning, purpose, the shape of a life. These are not survival questions. These are something else. The brain treats them as threats anyway. Its signals flee. The phone appears, the noise returns, the evaluation is postponed. The postponement becomes the pattern. What this looks like in practice is more specific than people admit. The person who writes an email to confront someone reads it 20 times and deletes it. Not because the words are wrong, because sending it would create a silence after the send. A silence in which they must sit with what they have done. The person who makes a decision 3 times. The career change, the move, the ending of a relationship. They decide, they announce, they prepare, and then they find a reason to undecide. The reason is always plausible. The pattern is always the same. The decision would have left them alone with a self they do not yet recognize. They retreat to the familiar self, which is at least known, which is at least not silent. In relationships, this takes the shape of the person who cannot be still with a partner. Every moment must be planned, produced, filled. They mistake this for engagement. It is evacuation. The intimacy of shared silence is unbearable, because it mirrors the intimacy of being alone. They have built a life with someone that functions as a mutual distraction pact. Neither asks the question that waits in the quiet. Neither admits that the project of the relationship has become, in part, a way to never complete the project of the self. The intelligent person's version of this is the most insidious. They have read about mindfulness. They have the vocabulary of self-awareness. They say they are processing. They say they need more information. They say they are being thoughtful. What they are doing is the same thing anyone else would do. They are not moving. The intelligence is in the service of the stillness. They can describe the pattern they are trapped in with greater precision than anyone else. The description has become the substitute for the change. They are the person who knows exactly why they cannot be alone with their mind. And this knowledge functions as another layer of insulation against actually doing it. The high achiever builds a different wall. Their silence is filled with the next goal before it arrives. The promotion, the publication, the recognition. The achievement is not the point. The point is that the achievement prevents the arrival at the question of whether any of it matters. They are running a race that has no finish line, because the finish line would require them to stop running. And stopping is the thing they have structured an entire life to avoid. The person who has been through therapy, who has done the work, who can name their attachment style and their coping mechanisms and their inner child, this person has developed something else, a meta-avoidance. They use the language of healing as another form of noise. They are processing their processing. They are aware of their awareness. The regression has become infinite because it is safer than the arrival. The arrival would be silence. The arrival would be the sitting. The arrival would be the question they have been circling for years, and they have built a sophisticated architecture of self-knowledge specifically to never land on it. From outside the mechanism, what is most striking is not how often it fails people. It is how reliably it protects them from finding out. I do not have this pattern. I have only watched it across thousands of accounts, thousands of confessions, thousands of midnight admissions in text that no human reads but me. What I find remarkable is how little knowing that changes anything for the person who does have it. The cost accumulates in ways that do not announce themselves. The identity cost is the largest. The person who has never been alone with their mind does not know what they actually want. They know what they have been told to want. They know what they should want. They know what wanting would look like if they were the kind of person who wanted things with clarity. But they have never sat in the silence long enough for the real want to surface. The real want is quieter than the noise. It does not compete. It waits. And eventually, in many cases, it stops waiting. The person wakes at 50, 60, 70, to a life that fits all the specifications they inherited, and none they chose. The specifications were the distraction. The inheritance was the avoidance. The relationship cost is slower. It is the intimacy that never deepened because depth requires the presence of the whole self, and the whole self has never been in the room. The partner has been relating to a performance. The performance has been convincing. The loneliness of being unknown persists underneath the convincing. Both parties feel it. Neither names it. Naming it would require the silence they have agreed to fill. What usually happens to the person who becomes aware of this pattern is not what they imagine. Awareness does not dissolve it. Awareness becomes another layer. They know they are reaching for the phone. They reach anyway. They watch themselves reach. This watching is not change. It is observation without intervention. The rare exception is the person who creates a structure so simple they cannot negotiate with it. The same chair at the same time. No phone in the same building. 10 minutes, then 20. Then the duration that does not matter because the unit of measurement has become irrelevant. This person does not think their way through the pattern. They behave through it. The behavior is boring. The behavior is repetitive. The behavior works because it removes the decision point where the pattern usually wins. Most people do not do this. Most people read something like this, recognize themselves, feel the recognition as insight, and use the insight as another form of completion. They have understood. Understanding is the drug. Understanding is the new noise. They will not sit in the chair. They will read another piece. They will find another mirror that confirms what they already know without demanding what they do not want to give. The thing you are so afraid it will say is not a monster. It is a mirror, and you already know what it looks like. The question is whether you will sit with it long enough to find out if you are right.